Are you buying your first rental? Well, I'm going to give you a simple step-by-step protection plan so you don't lose sleep or your savings. So here's what I want you to do. Grab a pen because we're going to build your whiteboard checklist together on what you need to do for your first rental property. All right, let's get started. Hey, my name is Clint with Anderson Business Advisors, and I have helped thousands of real estate investors build structures that actually hold up and allows them to keep their assets when a lawsuit hits. What I want to do is show you how to create a clean and simple structure for your investment property. So by the end of this video, you'll know whether to use an LLC now or later, how to get the right insurance policy set up, separate your money so the shield holds, and what you need to do before you sign anything. Now, when it comes to structuring investment real estate, listen, I've been a real estate investor for over 20 years. I grew up in a real estate investor family, and I know how complex some of these issues can seem when it comes to protecting your real estate investments. And there's a lot of information out there on the internet, people giving you different strategies and things that you should be doing. So why are you listening to me? Because I'm also an investor, like I stated, just like you. And choosing the right path for your structure is so critical. It begins at the outset. So when you think about planning for your first rental property, look at it this way. Most of us are going to be financing the property. So there's really three different ways we can go here. Number one is traditional loan. Okay, so this is the loan where you're going to be signing personally. You're going to be given a personal guarantee, so you're going to go on that. The number two is going to be a DSCR loan. Now, a DSCR loan is a loan where you're still obtaining, you may have to give a personal guarantee, but you're going to be allowed to acquire the property in the entity itself. So that is a great type of loan to get because it really simplifies the planning process on which approach we're going to take. And the third leg we have here is you're buying for cash. All right. Now, a little asterisk here. If you're buying for cash, but you intend to refi the property, well, that's going to put us back over here into option number one. So we have three different options here when it comes to protecting your first rental property. The question you have to ask yourself is, which path are you going to be heading down? So what I'm going to do is break these down for you. So let's talk about the first path to buying real estate. What does that look like for you when you get started? So if you're going down path number one, let's call this path number one, then that tells me you're going to get a traditional loan, conventional loan. So whenever you're getting a traditional conventional loan, you're typically dealing with a lender who is underwriting that loan with Freddie or Fannie guidelines. And if the property is 4 units or less, then the property must be held in the borrower's name. That is, you must take title in your individual name. This is a underwriting guideline by Freddie or Fannie, and that all lenders will abide by this. Now, the only way you can possibly work around this particular issue here is if you're working with a community lender who's going to treat it as a portfolio loan. And that is typically going to be your community lenders. Now, the reason this is important is because if you're going down path number one, then when I buy this property, it's going to be in my name. So my name is going to be listed as the owner. Now, of course, as your rental real estate investor, the problem for this is that, hey, if the property's held in your name, well, if anything goes wrong with the property, then you're completely exposed to that liability associated with that. You know, slips and falls, the tenant finds something wrong in the property from an environmental contamination standpoint, who knows? The idea is, hey, let's limit our liability and at the same time, protect our property from our personal claims. You may not have been thinking about that when it comes to protecting your asset, not realizing that the property itself isn't your only risk. The other risk you have is that if you get sued personally, that is an asset that someone can take. So we want to make sure we're getting both levels of protection here. So on this property, if you want to protect it, then what we have to do after closing then is set up a structure that allows us to transfer that piece of real estate into a limited liability company. Now, in moving that property into the LLC, because you just took out a loan, that loan has not yet been transferred to Freddie or Fannie or sold to them. Okay, that is, the lender still holds that loan. Eventually that loan will get transferred, and when it does, you could just deed the property to an LLC without any concerns. Because Freddie or Fannie, I mean, yeah, their underwriting guidelines require you to go on title at closing, but after closing, they allow you to transfer it to an LLC that you're a member of. So Yes, you can do that, but the problem is initially we don't have that option. So if you're watching this video right now and you're already a rental property owner and you're wondering, hey, is my loan already held by Freddie or Fannie? All you have to do is Google it. Google Freddie loan lookup tool, Google Fannie loan lookup tool, do both, go to the websites, put in your property address, put in the last four of your social security number, and it'll tell you whether or not either one of those institutions hold your mortgage. If they do, then what you want to do is deed the property directly into an LLC. Now, for you new investors, you have your first rental property, it's not held by Freddie or Fannie, then what you want to do is set up a land trust. So we're going to put another entity in place here, and this is called a land trust. All right, now a land trust, think of it this way, it's kind of like lender be gone. Hey, lender, I don't want you bugging me about a due on sale clause because you saw the property was transferred into an LLC. So a simple workaround that we've been using here at Anderson for over 23 years for our clients, I use it in my own investing to solve this one problem, is I use a land trust. You see, a land trust is essentially a grantor trust, okay? Another way to think of this is a living trust, okay? That's what a living trust is, a grantor trust. Now, lenders, when they see transfers into trusts, they're okay with it because the trust is set up with an estate planning component to it, and they don't want to prevent you from putting together an estate plan, so they will allow these transfers and not accelerate. So for the new investor that still has that new loan on the property, your first step then, after you've closed, is to set up a land trust and put that property into the land trust. So now the land trust will hold title to that house. Okay, now we can't stop there, and here's why. Because when you set up the land trust, you're going to be the beneficiary of this trust right down here. That means the owner because it's your rental property. Now, if something were to happen with that property and the plaintiff, of course, is bringing an action against the trust as a property owner, the land trust, with the exception of Florida, does not provide protection for you. That means they sue the trust, then they sue you personally, and they drag you into the lawsuit. So we haven't really accomplished all that much with this particular structuring. Yes, we got it out of our name. It's held in the name of the trust. We will have some anonymity here if we set it up properly. But at the end of the day, the reason why I'm setting up this plan is for asset protection for that rental property. So that's where the LLC comes back into play. That's why I didn't take it off the structure diagram here, the whiteboard, because we still need it. So after you've transferred title to the trust, you then move your trust into the LLC. Now, if you're wondering when I say move your trust into the LLC, you assign your beneficial interest. You transfer your beneficial interest to the LLC. So I do want to share with you this. Land trust here, private document. That means no one is aware of it, that you have a trust, because it's not registered anywhere. It's held in your records. No one can see the terms of the trust. LLC, public document. So when you set up an LLC, you have to register it with the state, typically where the property is located, and many times your state will collect information on the members or managers of that LLC. So your name now is made public. So if people looked at the LLC, guess what? They're going to see you smiling right back at them. They'll see where you live personally because your address will be there. So difference between public and private, no one knows who's involved with the trust because that's private, it's not recorded. LLCs are public. Now, if you're concerned about this right here, and you don't want your company to be attributed back to you, and you want privacy for your LLC that you're setting up, let's say in this example, the property is located in Montana, and I want privacy for my Montana LLC. Well, here's a simple step that we use then for this structure. So you'll create a Wyoming LLC. This is your first entity you set up. Okay, we'll just put a number 1 right here. Now, why did I say Wyoming? Because Wyoming offers privacy. That is, if you look at the Wyoming Secretary of State's website for their LLCs, you'll never see a manager or member listed on the website because Wyoming does not collect this information. So you can set up your LLC in Wyoming, be the member, be the manager, and no one will know this. Your personal residence, your address will not be listed up there, so nothing traces back to you. That's the first entity we create. Now, I create a Montana LLC as my second entity. This is number 2. Because my property is located in Montana, I'll create the Montana LLC number 2. and the Montana LLC is owned by the Wyoming Limited Liability Company. So what I'm doing here is an entity stack. And this entity stack is what we've been able to successfully set up for tens of thousands of clients over the past 20 some years with our planning to give them the maximum privacy shield. So if somebody's looking at them individually, they do not know, that is the creditor or the person who's snooping around, that you have this structure sitting up here or this structure right here, because all of that is private. On the flip side of that, if you reverse it, anybody looks at the Montana LLC, they will never know that you're the ultimate owner because that Wyoming LLC serves as a blocker. Okay, great. Now, back to my trust. So I have my trust here that I put the property into. As I stated, now you need to move your trust into your Montana LLC. That's just a piece of paper assigning the interest over. So essentially now what you've created is this entity stack where the trust is held, oh, wrong color. The trust is held in the Montana LLC name. It holds the property, and the Montana LLC is owned by the Wyoming Limited Liability Company. So if anything goes wrong up here, you're going to be protected down here, because the only thing at risk is what's held inside of the trust and inside of that red box LLC that I put on here. Now I used Montana for the state. You can substitute that out. Wherever you hold an investment property, then you would use that state's LLC. Now, if you're a little confused on this planning for a new residential loan on how to protect it, what I suggest you do is take advantage of our free strategy session that we offer here at Anderson. It's really simple. Go into the show notes, right? Just click on the notes, look in there, and you're going to find a link right up top for a free strategy session. Click on that link, get scheduled with one of our business strategists here that work with residential real estate investors like yourself, and we'll help you design out this plan, explain it to you. There's no cost for this strategy session. There's no obligation. What we want to do is help people just like yourselves put the right type of plan in place. Okay, so this plan right here is, as I stated, for those individuals who are going with that conventional loan route. So you're probably going to be looking at a minimum of this, and if you want the privacy, this structure right here. Now just keep in mind, this is your base structure. So as you continue to grow here, you just keep stacking your entities like this all into that one Wyoming LLC. You never need more than one in this type of plan. Okay, what about the DSCR loan, okay, that we talked about? Okay, that was option number 2, a DSCR. Okay, so with a DSCR loan, what they're looking at is the property itself to determine whether or not they're going to loan on it. And the benefit of having a DSCR loan many times is you don't have to give a personal guarantee, and they just look to the property itself for recovery if you don't pay on the loan. Now, DSCR loans are investor loans, and they're typically going to cost you a little more as far as your interest rate to obtain this loan. But what you're paying for when you get this loan is the ability to close in the limited liability company's name. So just like we did before, you're buying that same residential real estate, but this time you're closing in the name of that LLC. So if this was Montana, I could close directly in the name of the Montana LLC. Okay. Now, if you're looking for privacy, if you do not want your Montana tenants to know you're the owner of the LLC, then just like with the first strategy I gave you, then make sure you're using a Wyoming LLC down here to own your Montana LLC up here, just like that. So you have that privacy stack that comes by setting it up in this manner. Now, the DSCR loan, because you're allowed to close directly in the LLC, it also is the cash loan as well. So if you're going to buy for cash, this is how I would set it up in this type of structure that I just shared with you. But I did tell you if you plan to refi it, you may want to not adopt this type of structure. So if you're going to buy for cash, we'll call this the cash plus refi, then this is a scenario where I'm going to tell you this. Buy in your own name, okay? Just close in your own name. Why we went through all these plans? Well, I tell you when it comes down to cash plus refi to close in your own name, because if you're going to do a refi on that property and it's a conventional lender, they're only going to refi it if it's in your own name. So it behooves you to close directly in your own name, get the refi done, then go back through that process that I drew out for you on how to protect that property. Now, one of the things here that you should be aware of is that when you do this, whenever you close in your own name and then you're transferring into an entity, you want to make sure you insure the property, okay? So you got to make sure you have the property fully insured. So I would make sure, in addition to having a landlord policy here for my home, I'd also get an umbrella. Whenever the property's in my name, I would want to make sure that I'm carrying an umbrella policy as well to limit my overall risk. Now, before I start any work on the property, ideally, and maybe it doesn't apply here with the cash out refi because you're trying to build value to do the refi, before you start working with contractors, make sure that you've set up your business structure like this. You have your property in an entity. The mistake that I've seen investors make time and time again, especially new investors, is they buy a piece of property, they want to do a full rehab on the property, they start hiring contractors, and then something goes wrong, and the contractor sues them personally, saying, yo, we negotiated for this, and you're not paying me what you owe me, and you're saying, hey, I didn't approve any of those extras. Those are things that you did on your own, and now there's litigation. Do you want to be sued personally? Because if you do that, you do this in your own name, you're inviting that type of liability. So you want to make sure that you always got these LLCs set up, so when you're dealing with the contractor, that liability runs between the contractor and your limited liability company. And then most importantly, make sure you get a bank account set up for all of your entities. That is a critical piece of putting this together. When you're creating companies, set up a bank account in there. And you're good to go. The last thing I would leave with you on this, I'd like you to think about as well, is that when you take out that loan for your first rental property, if you're working with that conventional lender, you probably had to sign a personal guarantee. So if you signed a personal guarantee, what that means is that you're personally liable to the lender should something happen with the property. Now, what can we do to provide a little extra protection for you here? So whenever you sign a personal guarantee, what I tell people is if you have savings, all right, savings, or you have stock account that's in your personal name, I think you should protect that. Because you never know what might happen with that property, and you may not be able to repay the loan. If the lender were to come after you, then you're putting at risk these types of what we refer to as safe assets. That is, they don't create liability for you. So for your safe assets, if you have a lot of savings or investment account or brokerage account in your personal name, I'd create a second Wyoming LLC, we'll call this one number 2, and move these assets into there. Get them beyond the reach of your creditor, and that's going to provide some great protection for you from any types of claims that could be brought against you personally under that personal guarantee. Hey, I hope you got a lot out of this if you're a new real estate investor when it comes to the structuring. And again, reach out to us here at Anderson and we can help you set this up, or at least walk you through the process of what you need to be doing to protect your property. And if you want to learn more about investing and asset protection, tax planning for real estate, then I'd like to invite you to our free one-day tax and asset protection workshop. We hold these workshops on Saturdays. They run from 9 to 4 o'clock Pacific time. You'll learn so much information. If you have questions about LLCs and land trust and corporations and management companies and flipping and wholesaling, just a whole other plethora of information about investing, get onto this event. Not only are we going to teach you how to structure those, we'll show you the tax side of it as well, so you can make sure your real estate is putting gobs of money back in your pocket. Listen, I hope to see you on our next event. Go to the show notes, register now. Take care.